Hey guys, it's Amy, and I am back with another behind the scenes look into our software as a service design and development process. My husband Thomas and I are creating a new software as a service called Sweep that is all about recurring tasks that you need to do to run your business. Today, I'm going to show you a little bit of how I came up with the idea, how I came up with the rough design ideas, and then also how I created wireframes and how the app itself is now shaping up. So when I sit down to create any kind of product, I always start with a survey of the pains that my audience, my intended audience has. And I don't mean survey like sending out a questionnaire. I mean, I have studied people like me, business owners, especially with remote teams, and I've looked at what people fall down on, things they have to do every day, routines, knowing what has been done by your remote workers or your virtual assistants. Slack is not the solution, you guys. So with the knowing that recurring tasks and routines and processes are really a problem, I looked to see what other industries, what tools are out there, and I discovered something called the Kamishibai board, which is a lean manufacturing technique that features, in the case of lean manufacturing, a physical board that has red and green cards on it. Now, the individual card is red on one side and green on the other, and each card represents a single task. For example, if a piece of machinery has to be oiled every day, that would be one card, and it would be in the daily slot. So you can walk up to the board and immediately see what has and has not been done, and therefore you can keep your manufacturing floor running without accidents and without loss of productivity and without having to go, hey, Joe, did you do that? No, I didn't. Did you do it, Bob? How about you, Amy? I mean, that's just not efficient. And I'm all about efficiency of process. But from my personal experience and what I did researching the field of project management and process management software, I couldn't find a single thing that did anything this simply and this cleanly. And then once I started looking at the boards, I thought, well, we're looking also at processes, like you might move through the Year of Hustle, for example, an education thing that we offer as stackingthebricks.com. Or you might have 8 steps that you need to do to complete a blog post. And some of those steps might be done by someone else in your team, while others are done by you, for example. And so what we're calling Sweep, internally at least, is a completion engine. We want to foster repeatable process. It doesn't always have to be recurring, like daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, etc. But you go through a process and you can visually see what is and isn't done. So with that in mind, I took those rough doodles that I had done on my iPad Pro and opened up OmniGraffle so I could start creating some slightly more detailed wireframes, ones that my husband could actually read because my handwriting is atrocious. I love OmniGraffle because it really makes it easy to create a bunch of shapes and just edit your text and duplicate boxes and all that good stuff. And this is not the most efficient use of OmniGraffle. I haven't used it for a while, so I need to get my sea legs back. But the very first thing I started with is a board. In this case, I'm working on the chronological view of Sweep. So you're looking at tasks that are daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly. Now, the second board that I've added here that's labeled blog post up at the top is a process view. So I just said there were 2 board types. Remember, there's the chrono board and then there's a process board or workflow board. The workflow board also has things to do inside of it, and they may or may not be sequential. But they're not recurring. They're not chronological. And my husband, as he was starting to work on the data model, said, I need some use cases. So I'm like, so you'll have this recurring board thing, and then you might go into blog posts, and blog posts might be 8 steps. He's like, give me a picture. So I'm giving him a picture. You'll notice that I'm really not adding a ton of information here. I'm not adding a ton of the design details. And certainly this is not what the app is going to look like. I think that it's really popular to do beautiful wireframes, so to speak, pixel perfect mock-ups before working on an app. And I'm into pixel perfect once you're in the visual design phase. But it's a real mistake to mix in pixel perfection with workflow. The most important thing is that the app works the way the users need it to work. The visual design, while important because it creates a feeling, because it makes people happy, or it helps communicate, is not nearly as important as the functionality. And I think that workflows really get neglected a lot when you read about how people wireframe. So I started just with a bunch of little boxes, and now I'm adding in the sections for the different periods of recurring tasks and typing in some potential things that you might do each day or week. I'm going to actually come up with more detailed scenarios at a later date. I just want to showcase just some rough ideas of what could be on these boards. It doesn't have to be specific. I have the use cases in my mind, and I haven't documented them yet. And those little dots there on the blog post card on the left indicate how many of the cards on the right in the process have been flipped. So let's say that you have a weekly task for making a blog post, and you have a blog post process board. That will reset each time you complete it. So, you start your blog post on Monday because it's due on Friday, and you might do the first 4 steps. And so there'll be four little green dots, and then the rest of the steps will be little pink dots. And as I mentioned in my last video, it may not be green and pink. We'll probably have user customizable colors because many people, of course, have red-green color blindness. It's interesting is that the Kamishibai model comes from lean manufacturing, and most people who work in factories, at least in the United States and probably in Japan, where it comes from clearly, are men, and yet the cards are red or green and not other colors, and something like 10% of men are red-green colorblind to some degree is what I've read. So just a fun design artifact. Clearly you want all 100% of your population, not just 90%, to be able to deduce information from the display that you're designing to create information. Now, I did find that there are a couple apps that do recurring tasks, but the way that they do them is so clearly based off their data model that I find it interesting that it's virtually unusable because you have checklists that involve lots of scrolling, or it looks like a spreadsheet basically just online. You cannot see what's going on. The whole point of this design is visual management, so that you can see it at a glance and see what the progress is, and you don't have to scroll or look at lots of vertical columns and try to hold all that data in your mind. It should be right in front of you. So here I'm adding a third view in the wireframes, which is the card view. The card view will show you the name of the card, if it's assigned to anyone, who it's assigned to, and it will include documentation for the task. So when you set up your process or your recurring task for your chrono board, you'll be able to say, here's how to do the task. And below that documentation, whether it's text or an embedded YouTube video that shows the process, we'll have a log that shows who did it last. Was it missed last week or on another date? Depending on the chronological time period you're talking about. And people will be able to leave comments so that the next time someone goes to do that task, they will see those comments in case it's an important new twist on the way the task has to be done. And then you can integrate them into the actual description and information on how to complete the task. So the work itself should be essentially self-documenting. There's no reason that a tool like this shouldn't also be your business process manual. So with that ultra nerdery done, my husband has started on the Rails development. We love Rails. He started, these are the colors he picked based on the logo. And I was like, no, can't be that contrasty. No, it's still too contrasty. So then he experimented with gray cards and a white background. And we finally settled together on a light gray background with white cards and little bars across the top, just to make it easy to scan, but also not give you a headache. So we're looking at the first early access wave for you, potentially, being within a week or two. If you're interested in getting on, go to sweep.cards and just drop your name in the inbox, and we will let you know just as soon as you can actually try the app out.